Hello again, Retro Heads. Benny Williams back again for a Hermit Hideaway, and we're going to, of course, as you would have seen in my last video that I've done, I'm not long shooting this after filming that video. That was my birthday pickets video, and I said that we were going to do an unboxing of the Super Retro Trio, which is very cool, so I could play all of my non-PAL games, the NTSC and the Japanese region games and things like that, so it's going to be very cool. So with the Super Retro Trio, we got this manual here to look through, probably for setup and troubleshooting as you'd expect, which is pretty cool. Just flicking through there, and it looks like you can use a Game Boy Advance SP to hook up to. It says on here that you could buy a cartridge adapter to play Game Boy Advance games with it, which is pretty cool. And by the looks of it, you can use a link cable with your Game Boy Advance SP to this to be able to play it on there. So I don't know what that's about yet, but it's what I saw in the manual. Pretty cool idea, I guess. So let's have a quick look at the system. So it feels like a decent enough plastic. Yeah, not anywhere near the sort of quality of the Super Nintendo or the Mega Drive really, but not too far off it. Feels only ever so slightly cheaper, and I only mean ever so slightly, not by much. So we've got the switch here. Obviously you've probably seen this 100 times. The switch here to swap between the cartridges, because you can have 3 in at once at any one time. Reset button here. At the front you just push that in for it to come down. At the front here we've got 2 controller ports for the Super Nintendo, 2 for the NES and 2 for the Genesis, or over here the Mega Drive, or as me and my friends enjoy calling it, the Megasys. And there is also a region switch on the front, which you probably can't see because it's not really zooming in properly. Sorry, it's not really focusing properly. It's got NTSC, PE, NJPA, which I'm not really too sure some of those are, apart from the NTSC. At the moment I don't know what this switch is for. It looks like it's another switch to choose between the controllers that you want to use, but I would imagine, and we will find out, that you can use, say, the Super Nintendo controller to play all the games regardless. So you can use it to play Mega Drive or Genesis or the NES. On the back we've got an S-video output, we've also got a multi-AV output and the 5V DC in. So what is nice about this is that a couple of years ago now, I think I got this 401 NES game multi-cart, which I've never been able to play because I didn't realise that when I got it, it was an NTSC. I didn't realise that actually that I didn't have a PAL region for it. So, but never mind. So I've got that. Hopefully I'm going to be able to try it. I've seen the Retro Duos are able to play these cartridges, which I've seen at some of the retro events anyway, that some of these clone consoles do actually play these clone carts very easily without many problems, if any at all. And that just slots in the top there, it fits, so that should load perfectly. So there's 2 controls. Actually these were much nicer than I thought they were going to be. These are Super Nintendo clone ones. Actually these seem really nice, because I've seen the older version of these and they were clunky and quite horrible looking things. So they've changed them and they've gone for the third party Super Nintendo controller sort of thing, so that's really cool. And as you can see, it's got the Super Nintendo input there. Sorry about the focusing. It's a trouble with this camera, it either focuses and does it really well, or it sticks on the focus and... Oh, the dog's kicking off, sorry. I was saying it either focuses really well, or it just loses its focus and won't focus on certain things, and I've got to find out how I can just tap it just to change the focus. I've got two S-video cables there, gold plated, which is nice, so that should have better contacts. So it comes with a European plug adapter and American. So with it I have got a travel adapter where I could just plug that in and play and test it. So we're going to set this up and we're going to give it a go and see how it turns out. So I've now set up the Super Retro Trio. It was really easy to set up. As you can see, there's slots for the 3 different cartridges. You can have them on at any one time because of the switch just here. I've had a little bit of a play around with it just to get used to it, and so I could see what I need to do. And I've got my £3 TV that I got from a car boot here, which actually works really nicely for this. And I was going to use, well, the plan is to use this for a vertical arcade machine, this TV, because although it looks square, when it's up on its side, it's actually wider than it is tall. So it does actually, you know, I'll just show you so it makes sense. As you can see, it actually makes quite a nice size vertical screen. So it's almost a shame that I'm going to be using this for something else now, but I have to see if I can get another one at some point in the future. There's no rush on that really. So we're going to start off with the NES cartridge, the NTSC one, the 401. I'll just change the source. I've got to say, the Super Nintendo style controller, I do really like this. It's not exact, but it's quite close. It's very comfortable. I do like it. I know my friend David Birdsall will be watching this, so I'm just going to quickly show Sky Kid working on the 401 because I know he loves this game. And I have played this in the arcade before and I'm not really used to the game as such, so I'm probably going to be terrible at it, to be honest. So as I say, the Super Nintendo style controller, it is really nice, it's really responsive. It's much better than the third party style USB ones that you get. All you got to do is press the reset button, it takes you back to the menu. So we just go to Contra 2 there. You go into Contra 2 and then you get the menu for all of the variation of the Contra games. So obviously it's got all the ROM sets for the game. Classic run and gun game. And again, it plays really, really nicely on this controller. It's really nice to finally, after a couple of years, be able to play my 401 cartridge, which I only paid about £8 for, I think it was, £7 or £8 for it. And of course I've never been able to try it and see if it works before or see what it's like. I'm quite pleased with it all in all. Some games the borders obviously are a little bit flicky on some of them, but it's quite minimal, it's not too much of an issue. So as you can see, the games work for that, so I'm going to switch over to the SNES now. And I've got Joe McCaveman Ninja in there already. Let's try again, there we go. One of the games from my childhood. And everything seems to be okay with it. I mean, like the sound's fine, the graphics are fine. You can really see the scan lines on it from what you get from obviously having a CRT TV, sorry. You know, I'm not really noticing at the moment, using this controller and playing the Super Nintendo game, that it's not actually a Super Nintendo console, and that I'm not using an official Super Nintendo controller. So, you know, that's how close it is to the real thing. Of course, it's not perfect, and, you know, not really, I'll probably say about 75% maybe, which is fairly good. Compared to you play this on something like RetroPie, and it's just, you know that you're just not getting that same sort of quality at all on RetroPie, although, you know, I'm not slated it, I do love the RetroPie. So that was that works. So we're going to change over to Golden Axe 2. And a little bit of an issue with this, because the controls are all mapped differently. So sort of like select is to move forward, which is strange. So I do believe in the manual it did say that you can remap them, and I was right about seeing the Game Boy Advance SP multi-link. You can hook up to, I think it's up to 4 Game Boy SPs to play some local play through the Super Nintendo SNES adapter, which I do have one of those, which that's something else I need to try on this actually, see if that works, which I'd imagine it would. So I'm having to hold the left shoulder trigger to move left. So, but yeah, anyway, you can see that it works, it's fine, and like I say, I believe you can remap it. So that is the Mega Drive, Super Nintendo and the NTSC 401. So I'm now going to swap over to a PAL NES game and a Japanese SNES game. And we should try those. I haven't got any NTSC. I haven't got any Genesis games at the moment, I don't believe. And this is one of my favourites as a child, absolute classic California games. So just quickly going to practice on half pipe for a minute, because I need to try and get better at that. I used to be great at this, but I'm nowhere near as good as I used to be. I used to be able to go on for ages and ages on this. I mean, the Super Nintendo controller, as you'd expect, doesn't feel quite right for playing the NES games, as you'd expect. So yeah, that was the PAL NES game. Now we're going to go over to the Japanese SNES game, the Donkey Kong Country 2, which I haven't had a chance to check out and try yet. Can't see why it wouldn't work. Okay, so this one doesn't work. I'm quite surprised at that because I've tried Whirlo and it did work. Except I don't really know how to play Whirlo, to be honest. I'm not that familiar with it. So of course it's not going to be compatible with all the games. So it looks like I can't play Donkey Kong Country 2 on this. I've also tried Rock'n'Roll Racing on the NTSC Super Nintendo. That didn't work either. I also tried Aero the Acrobat, which it loads but you can't start it. I tried the Universal Adapter and it's the same thing, same problem. I can't get around that. But just to show you that obviously some Japanese games do work, some of the Super Famicom games, and it will load and play. So yeah, as you can see, this Super Famicom game, this copy of Whirlo, which the PAL version goes for insane price, about £300 or something like that I think it is, versus the £5 on the Super Famicom version. So that works. And just to show you what I mean, you know, it just seems to be region locked, these games, which is maybe why they don't work, because obviously it's got the NTSC slot for them to fit into, and it just says on there for use only on NTSC compatible systems, which this is supposed to be an NTSC compatible system, so that is a little bit disappointing. I just want to try a couple more things that I thought about earlier while I was testing out the Super Retro Trio, so I'm just going to quickly add this into the video so you can see if they work or not. One of the first things I did obviously was see if a Master System cartridge would work, because as far as I'm aware, and I'm quite sure I'm right with this, Master System cartridges can go straight into the cartridge board on a Mega Drive as long as you make the slot wide enough, which you would have thought they would have done with this, so you could just pop them in, but you know, similar to the way they've done with the NTSC NES and for the NTSC Super Nintendo, but unfortunately it doesn't fit. It's only just shy, just only ever so slightly, and I reckon that would actually work, but never mind. At least, you know, something they should have thought about. They could have just nipped cut a little bit more of the plastic out on the sides here. That would have fit in. That would have been another system that it would have been able to play. But I'm pretty confident that these work. I got this SNES cartridge with the SD inside it, which I got off my very good friend Andy Godoy. So I'm pretty sure that this is going to work. So let's just plot that in and see. It should do. And this is at least a way that I'll be able to play any of my NTSC games that I've already got, which I couldn't play. So here's all the games on there, and let's see. I'm sure it's going to be on here somewhere. I can't find it, but it should be. Let's just try, while we're here, let's just try and load Tintin into that, just so I can show you that it does work. As like I said already, it's very good for playing these third-party multi-carts as closed systems are, which I normally see at Retro Revival. Seems to be working okay so far. I think the buttons are already working, so yep, works a treat. So obviously I don't know this game, I've never played it before, but you can see obviously it works, and should be able to just press reset and it should go back. Oh no, it just loads into the game again, so I'd have to turn it off and on and then go back into its main menu, but that works anyway, so that's a good thing. If you don't know Andy Goddard at all, then you're missing out. He is from Get to the Chopper podcast, and he's a podcast guru, so you need to go and check him out. He's awesome. And finally, I just wanted to check the Super Game Boy, which I'd imagine this should work. Just got Tetris in there to try quickly. It fits in there nicely. It seems to, like I say, I completely expected it to, so that's cool. Screen's a bit fuzzy, but that's not the end of the world. And like I say, I'm still trying to work out what's going on with the Super Nintendo NTSC. Find out why that's not working at the moment. I'm sure if there's a way to do it, I'm sure I'll find out how to do it. There we go, there's a Tetris. So yeah, that works. Let's just quickly try a couple more games. It's really nice actually, because it's got like that crackly sort of old film sort of thing over the top of it there, so it makes it look really old and nostalgic of classics, which of course it is. So that's very cool. So yeah, there you have it, those work, which I thought, you know, rather than saving it for another video, I'll just quickly film this and then I could just add it into the video. So yeah, that's awesome, that works. So yeah, overall I am really happy with the system, apart from the fact I can't play Super Nintendo NTSC games for some reason, even though it has a Switch. So I'll have to do some digging into that. My overall impressions of it is that I do really like it. The control pad's great. The fact that you can have the three systems at once is great. I like the ejector plate at the front where you can get to your different control ports, and you've got your switches there, which, yeah, maybe I just need to try and work out how to use them properly, and you never know, maybe the NTSC one will work. Perhaps, I don't know yet. I have to try and wait and find out. So I've got a bit more tinkering to do with it really to see for sure whether it works or not. Still, I've only had it a day now, 2 days rather, by the time I'm filming this again. It is slightly disappointing there's no HDMI port as well as the AV out, but that's not the end of the world because I can still use it to connect to my HD capture card, so I'll still be able to capture gameplay footage on it. And I'm just going to have to use the original hardware for the other titles, such as obviously Aero the Acrobat with the universal adapter on my actual snares, because I know that should work.